Yeah.
Okay, I'll call the city council work session on November 15th here at 6 o'clock p.m.
Mayor Nelson is absent. Tom Baylor,
Here.
Kathy Sherman, here. Jeff Guard,
Here.
Alina Meyer, absent. Ann Schaefer, here. Kristen Carpenter, here. And Ken Jones is absent for now. That is formal council.
Okay, and so that brings us to the 2023 city budget preparation.
Thank you. So in front of you is, are several documents, mostly related to those things that I really need some feedback from council on. The capital projects budget has been revised significantly based on meetings with individual department heads to refine it to a place where it fits real needs to help our city employees do their jobs. And also in front of you is a document you requested on the second page, which is the account balances year to date, or as of the end of October, which shows you what the various accounts are and what resources we have available to us to potentially tap to pay for some of those capital projects. Also included is a fee schedule, very draft at this point in time, representing the work that's been done by departments. I did want to alert you to the fact that police and fire will have changes, and those are not in your packet tonight. And also we have yet tapped and discussed the enterprise funds, which will be a conversation coming up. Those documents, those fee schedules are not in this packet tonight. So we're looking primarily at general fund changes, but want to get your feedback on whether we're heading in the right direction so that we can refine things before we present them to you in some final form. So with that, I can go through the capital projects budget, but I think everyone, I hope, recalls the conversations that the department heads brought to the table in the last work session with rather significant, almost $3 million worth of capital project needs, eminent capital project needs. This budget in front of you now is around $750,000 and change, and includes those items that can be accomplished in 2023, and want to let you know also that the work that's being done by the engineers on the various building condition assessments we'll have a better sense of that in very early January. So please do know that there will be some significant conversations in the first quarter of 2023 around things like the pool liner, which is very close to failing and will shut down the pool. So we'll have to address some of those larger capital projects, but we'll have a better sense of the impacts of those and what that will cost us in the first quarter of 2023. So those are yet to come. So I guess I open it up for a conversation and discussion. Chairperson Anne, I'll give it back to you.
Okay, thank you. But anyone does anyone have a comment? Any discussion that they'd like to talk about? Awesome.
I'll go first. I just I'm okay with the general fund budget the way it is right now. Last week, I'm okay with this capital costs or capital projects list. And I recommend that we use the permanent fund to start to accomplish some of these things that we need to do. And just throwing that right out there, because Bill Schultz always said it's for a rainy day and it's to sustain our community, and that's what we need to do with this very good 5-year plan that the staff has put together. So my comments right now.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online? Yes, city manager.
I wanted to share that I do have, if folks are wanting to have a conversation around how do we pay for these things, I have a couple of ideas that I want to just throw out on the table. Back in early September, we did a budget revision that was based on increases for that we received for the in lieu of tax payments, the community systems fund, forest service receipts, and property tax from Aliesta, and the total of those things above the budget that we projected was close to $600,000. Of that money, your approved budget revisions that included the increase to the schools, the ski lift cable that you agreed to pay for of around $80,000. We increased the school budget by almost $200,000. We paid for the assessor software and the initial startup contract with those resources. We added contractual services for the finance department. We funded the special projects coordinator position, and we bought some additional computers for a total of $512,000. So of those additional resources that, again, were not budgeted, but we did receive, there still is close to $80,000 left of those resources that were unallocated. So there's $80,000 there that could potentially help to pay for these capital projects. The other thing that I also want to bring to your attention is that back in late October, just a few weeks ago, we did have a conversation around some of the resources that are yet to be dedicated that have been received by city. That includes ARPA funds for revenue replacement. We've committed $380,000 in this budget, but there's still $265,000 that have not been allocated for any purpose. And then also the school bond debt reimbursement that we received almost $1.9 million. That is above and beyond what we budgeted, or we had already closed out a fiscal year. So like in 2017, they gave us $200,000 less than what we had budgeted. The following year, $235,000 less, and in 2021, $953,000 less. So those resources are again available. They haven't been allocated. They haven't been parked in the permanent fund or in the general reserve or anything like that. So I just want you all to know that those are resources that we should have a conversation around and potentially could pay for these capital projects.
So I guess I have a question. You said there's about 207K of the ARPAs that aren't allocated at this point, but they are included in the as we're gonna do.
So we have a total of $574,000 in this budget. Proposed budget, only 308,000 are included. So there's 265 still on the table. I mean, still available. And the same is true with that, 79, almost $80,000 from the additional revenue that was received above and beyond what we had budgeted, from a variety of sources in FY22.
That was resolution 9/22/26 that we did in September. And you can look at it, I guess. I'm looking at it online and it has all the line items probably on the call when we did that. So it was the one big budget.
Yeah, I guess, for me, I guess I didn't realize we still had that 200,000 that had from our fund, so maybe we have to spend it by a certain time, and feel like that would be, capital projects would be a good use for that. Maybe. And then I'd also be willing to talk about using the school bond projects that we want to prioritize, and also that. What is that even? Makes sense. Ms. Sherman.
Oh, and I was just wondering if you could. Yeah, a little bit on the school debt reimbursement, I guess I am confused, I thought that too is. I don't get it, but I guess I'm wrong.
We received it. It has not been, council has not directed where it goes. In the past, the bond debt reimbursement went directly to repay bond debt, but in 17, 19, 20, 21, we received less than we expected. And so we budgeted accordingly, or went in debt or whatever, and covered those variances with city resources. The option is, of course, to repay those resources, and or invest them in capital or whatever you guys want to do. I also want to bring to your attention something which I thought was interesting. I was looking back on budget data, and in 2019, our budget was close to $13 million. It was $12,975,826. So that was our actual expenditures. So I know we've talked about the budget creep, but in 2019 we were close to $13 million organization. In 2020 and 21, obviously COVID did a number on our budgets and expenditures and any number of things. And our budget did drop down to $11 million range. In those years, however, we actually had fund balances at the end of the year. So in fiscal year 20, based on the audited financial statements, we had $214,000 as a fund balance at the end of the year. In 2021, $167,000 in fund balance. So again, we have, and you'll see that on the document for our account balances on page 2. You'll see that our cash position is actually growing, is going up. So I feel reasonably confident that we've been able to pay our bills and sock away some money for those rainy day activities. So just sharing that with you now.
Right. That's what we're doing.
I was just kind of asking about this cash list report because there are 4 different categories. All of them So. We should go, I mean, is this all the permanent fund? 20 million for permanent fund, or is this a combination?
Just realizing there's only,
Could we speak up into the microphone a little bit? I'm having a hard time hearing and understanding.
So I was just looking at the cash best report that's on page 2. And
you know what, I'm realizing that you didn't get exactly what I should have sent you, and I apologize for that, but, the $20 million includes the permanent fund and, in all other, cash accounts, and, the detail isn't here, so I erred and sent you the wrong document, which is not particularly useful for this moment, so I'll make sure you get that.
so the permanent fund has about how much?
It's around, let me go get the actual numbers, I've got the report. Yes, you-
I know there were big questions. Thank you. Well, I'm just looking at the number on page 2.
Is that from
So
just the period, so that balance is 7.
that's a good point. But it's your, no, it's not mine. Oh, yeah, it says that. October 31st, the city's finance position equals 9 million. 5 million is credited to the check contribution. That's what I'm wondering, yeah, right. That's what I thought it was. I'm not sure that makes sense because. This is not they do sort it out by investment side. Not necessarily by.
Okay, Susan's making copies. It will be sent via email to those of you online. And those of us in the room will have those copies very soon, and we'll share a lot more detailed information. But in the meantime, if anybody has any questions about anything else, I'm happy to answer. Just be a moment.
Sounds like basically the operating budget we are here. Any major changes to it, we're asking you to weigh in on the capital budget, which
I think let me speak a little bit to the operating budget. Still making refinements. For instance, just got quotes back on our health insurance plan. They're going to go up 10%. I didn't budget that big of an increase, so there'll be some adjustments made there. So I'm still refining parts and pieces of the budget, but the fee schedule obviously will make a difference if you want to segue into that. The more we charge, the more we have that comes back to the general fund budget to expend. And I can speak a little bit to that. Parks and Rec fee schedule will bring an additional $24,000 into the budget. Based on the fees that they have proposed. The museum recommended, not museum, that Cordova Center rates are recommending a 20% increase to be in line with the services that are provided. That will bring another $7,000 to $8,000 on the revenue line. So there's $32,000 pretty much. Again, we're still working on the police and all the enterprise funds. And those enterprise funds obviously are balanced out their budgets. And what will impact the general fund is police. Planning department made a few adjustments to their fee schedule, but when they calculated out the volume of work that they did and the impact of those, it'd be only $1,000 to $2,000. So it's not really material to the bottom line. But I think what we're looking at with the fee schedules in front of you at this moment in time is somewhere around $35,000 worth of increases that reflect the actual work being done and the costs to the city. And that will again impact the revenue line on the general fund budget, which could then help make up for some of those increases that we're seeing. So I would say that the general fund budget that you're looking at is still in a draft form, and all the parts and pieces will coalesce and come together to a beautiful document at some point, but we're still emerging.
thank you. One other question. So at one point we talked about 1.9 million school bond debt reimbursement and the possibility. I don't total budget because I feel like we are constantly asking staff to make do with it. It's why I fully endorse essential capital needs. I think we've also talked about using some of that for funds, grants.
Yeah, and I think at one of the fall meetings when we were looking at the PIDP grant, council said we're going to commit resources from the permanent fund for a match. And I think it was close to $3 million. We didn't get that grant, but as we look for future grants, we're going to definitely need the feds pretty consistently require 6 to 8% match, if not more. And if we're going to be serious about applying for grant funding, we will need to have a commitment of match from whatever source.
Any comments online?
My only comment's more administrative. I just asked that you speak into your microphones a little more clearly. I'm having a hard time hearing some of the participants.
Sorry, Deb, we'll do better.
Thank you. Don't mean to grouse.
So maybe what would be helpful at this moment in time is let's start maybe the schedule, because that is something that we can, just take a look at and see if you are in general agreement that the rates being proposed by the departments that have contributed at this moment in time are a direction you all want to take. That would be on starting on page 4, 6, 7, 9, 12, 17. We'll start with the City Hall and Library. There's no proposed changes. Does anybody feel like there should be changes, or would like to have a conversation around either City Hall and Library? Jeff, can you hear me okay? I'm as close as I can get to the mic without eating it.
No, I've been able to hear all through this.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
So again, the City Hall business licenses, election, board compensation, the services, printing, copying, both City Hall and Library, those fees are proposed to be static for FY23. And unless there's conversation or discussion, move on to the fee schedule for the planning department. Just 2 columns, the current rates and the proposed. You'll see that there is proposed $25 increases on the major building permits, and that's in line with an acknowledgement of the cost to staff time. But the rest of the fees are proposed to stay the same. I think there were some adjustments made last year as well. So Kevin and the planning department feel that these are in line with the cost to city.
In the City Hall fee schedule, it's 50 cents a page for copying. For the library, it's 25 cents a page, and for planning and zoning, it's 50 cents a page. Just wonder if maybe should make that consistent.
I was looking at that too.
I guess
I think the library keeps it low on purpose because kids are there. But we should probably equal out the planning and the City Hall. Super big.
I know it's the sort of thing people notice.
So Tom is trying to talk and we can't hear him.
We had it earlier.
Is it? What? But Tom's listening, so he must be on.
We're trying to find the view.
Afraid to do anything. Yeah. Yeah, we just looked and you're not muted. Don't know why. You want us to get off the line or exit and try and. All right, that's.
Okay, moving on, I will say that the police and fire department, those changes will be coming soon, very soon. Moving on to Parks and Rec on page 9. These are proposed fee increases. You see the FY22 fees, the FY23 fees, and then the increased amount. And again, that $12,000 in revenue for the Bedarky, and another 12 for the swimming pool based on these fee schedules.
I have a hard time following along, like, beyond the membership table, the next couple pages, I was getting confused with the different tables and how they're different. They seem like there's repeats of each other, but then some of them are new. Is it repeated? Okay, I was confused. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Page 11, okay, that was the one where I had the big questions. And I guess one of my questions was, you guys did do a calculation to see like what this would sketch out to when you said it was about 24.
I don't know if you want to ask Duncan any questions. He is in the room.
Sherman.
I was just gonna say, I actually was pleased that I asked a few, users, regular swimming pool users, and they said they pay a lot higher than these fees outside and in many other places when they swim, so I think it's commendable and in line with other places.
Yeah, I've just done a quick sort of comparisons with other cities around Alaska, some rural, some urban. Reality is our prices are compared to on last 10 years. So we haven't increased our prices for 10 years. I added sales tax when I took over Victor. So unfortunately it's time to move our prices.
You guys all Zoom, what do I tell Tom? He's on a computer, he can hear us well.
Did he exit?
Yeah,
Maybe he has to speak.
well, what's the mic on a computer?
Can we just call them?
Under sound, like a
Well, tell me. Tom, you got,
where you want to, if you're on a Windows machine, I'm not sure what it is. I know on an Apple, you click on the little gear thing and there's a icon for sound. Maybe Sam knows for Windows.
I know Teams better than I know Zoom.
maybe, control panel or something and look.
Well,
through
a
the
lot of
microphone.
times it's right in the program too, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to, it tells. Usually they do, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom had asked earlier if we could hear him, and we did. When he called in.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
remember when you first called in and we heard you? And said we're just on mute for a while. Then we stopped hearing you. Feel like you did anything in between those two things?
He's up there again.
Maybe he's trying phone line instead.
We have to invite him in. Yeah. So he must be on the phone. Oh dear. We're trying to fix this comment all.
Yeah, you can select your microphones.
ask Tom if he can see where she clicked on the up arrow on that mic. Where it says mute.
So here,
Can you see the screen right now, Tom? And if so, Anne is trying to show you where you might go to look. on speakerphone on that?
Yeah.
That's some weird thing. Oh, yeah.
Like, is there another, like, yeah. So, like,
What's mute?
I know. You don't have headphones in the. Are you using those right now? Maybe don't. Maybe take them off.
That's, I just, I took them off. Do you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Frick. So those headphones are plugged in for whatever reason, it's blocking me from talking.
Or Bluetooth. It's just that directs the sound.
Well, I can't hear Kristen there, so.
Saying that if you have the headphones on, that just directs the sound into the headphones and not the computer microphone.
Okay, so that's on me. I was wearing the headphones and I was unable to talk to you guys. So,
Okay,
Okay, Tom, did you want to make a comment?
yeah, I did. I was trying to get in when you were talking about the capital budget. So I guess part of my thoughts where we have that study going with the engineering firm, I think we might want to hold off on some of this stuff until they come through with that. Who knows what they're going to come up with? There might be some things that we really have to attend to, we need the money for, or there might be more things in one particular building we just hit all at one time. But I do think we need to address the springs for the overhead doors. That's kind of a safety issue. I think we need to address the roof for the chamber that's leaking, so that's definitely something that needs to get corrected. I don't think we need to address the siding. I'm not sure what the problem with the siding is, but I don't know if that's why that's high on the priority list. The other thing I think is not on there that we should address is the substation out by 5 Mile. I did have an opportunity to look at that. That really needs to get addressed. There could be some structural issues with that, especially we got some heavy snow. I kind of went over some things with Melvin, and we can keep an eye on that, see if the settling stopped. If it has stopped, and that really should be addressed next year, maybe by next fall. So it needs to get leveled up, not the slab, but the building itself is starting to, the cross support cables are loose. That's the danger, and they're starting to stress the outside skin because it's 12 inches from one eave to the other. That's a lot of settling. But it should be fixed, and I would like to see that on the budget this year. We don't need to be building the storage facility, but we do need to straighten up, the storage rack, we do need to straighten that up. So that was my thoughts on the capital budget. And I'm still unsure on this adding the extra person for the conferences. I just can't find any information to see. There's no spreadsheet. I'm not sure how you're coming up with your numbers to see where you're at on cost on that. I looked through your fee schedule and that's good, but what are your input costs and what are you getting out of it? So, and I know that was thrown out there that, well, we're getting sales tax and we're getting bed tax, but just to cover the cost of that one half-time position, you'd have to come up with 1,500 nights stay in a motel at 12% tax, and you'd have to have those people spend $500,000, 6% sales tax to get like $66,000 out of them. So I don't know what you're making on the other end, if you're making money, but it's not that I don't support having conferences there. I want to see a spreadsheet and see where we're at and money going on. If the taxpayers are subsidizing this thing, then so be it, but we should be able to see it. Hopefully they're not. Hopefully we'll pay its own way, but I don't see how it's doing that. So that was my comment on that. Maybe we can get some more information on that, but
Okay, just
then
a second.
go
The
ahead.
manager has a comment.
I was just gonna address your question there, Tom. I 100% agree with you that that position doesn't pay for itself. It doesn't pay for itself right now. It's embedded in the museum director's job description, or not even a job description. She's doing it on her own. We are going to lose her services when she retires in the spring. And we're acknowledging that she does that work, and we don't have anyone who will be doing that work. So we have to have someone who can book the facility. We have to have someone who can run the events. It's probably not a cost center that's going to break even. But we will promise you that the work will not get done if we don't have someone that is designated to do it, to book the facility, to provide the on-the-site management, to serve the needs of those early users. So I just wanted to be clear about that. It's really related not to creating a new position, it's to acknowledging that the position has been filled by someone who will no longer be serving us, and we don't have a position.
No, and I fully understand that, and I have a high amount of appreciation for the folks that were doing this, the volunteers and everything. But I'm talking about moving forward. So moving forward, I would like to see a little bit more accountability. How do you, like for instance, the chamber is supposed to be working on booking these things. How do we evaluate that? You know, what's our goal? Are we trying to get 10 conferences a year or once a month, and then how do we evaluate that position? So what are our costs going in? And if we're losing money, then that's the way it is, but I think it needs to be an open book so people see it and understand it. And we work with that because, you know, we expect that out of our Parks and Rec. We expect that out of, you know, they got a fee schedule. We can look at what they're doing. We can look at the road crew, whether to get the roads plowed, you know, so on and so forth. And we scrutinize all their budgets. I'd like to see the numbers on this and what it is we're doing, and you know, and how do we hold not only that person that you're hiring accountable and the chamber, what are they doing their job, but also you're part of our evaluation, and are we utilizing that facility good? So that's my concern, is moving forward, we need to get these numbers and have them straight. And then I lost my train of thought on the other. Oh, so it was hard to understand when you were talking the numbers. So in the budget, are we still balancing the budget with $300,000 of the ARP funds? In other words, we are actually having to take $300,000 to balance that budget. Is that correct? If we didn't have the $300,000 one, we'd have to go to the permanent fund or another source to get the money to balance this budget.
Yes, but we would have to anyway, because that $300,000 that we're using ARPA funds for is to make the matching, meet the matching requirements for the 2nd Street and White Shed Road projects, both of which were commitments made quite a long time ago.
Right.
And so I'm proposing using not what would normally be general fund or permanent fund dollars to meet that match, but to use a portion of the ARPA money. So it's one-time money available to do that match, that initial match. There'll be more matches in the future, but instead of drawing the entirety of the match out of the permanent fund or reserves, which is what commitment that was made by council X number of years ago, that money is being recommended to draw from those ARPA funds. So that's the entirety of the commitment of ARPA funds, is for those matches.
No, yeah, and I understand that, and that's a great use for those funds. But, and I guess I just rounded up. So there was another, it's hard to give me the numbers here on my computer. Well, there's another 258,000 or something like that, but that we also use. I think
Right.
the total.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I'm referring to. I kind of rounded it up to 300. That's what I'm referring to. That kind of balanced our budget, right? And so here's my.
No, that's
Go ahead.
available. That money is available for capital if you choose to use it in that way, or you could choose to use it in another way. So there's 200, I'll go around to 250 of those ARPA funds that have not been allocated to anything. And you as a body can decide to maybe put it towards these capital projects or something else, but it's not in the general fund.
Okay, so again, you'll have to excuse my lack of budgeting knowledge. So let's move forward a year from today. And we're looking at the budget for 2024. We got the same numbers. We're moving everything forward. Now we're going to go, well, we don't have that 200 and some odd $1,000 of ARPA funds. We're going to have to pull that out of the bank. That's what I'm getting at. Is that, you see where I'm at there? I'm kind of concerned that we're spending money that we don't have.
And again, none of those dollars are in the operating budget, with the exception of the 308,542 that is for the matching requirements for the and those items are in the operating budget. The matching funds requirements for the 2nd Street and Whiteshed Road projects, they are part of our operating budget. They're clearly capital. They're clearly one-time investments in our infrastructure, but we've always included them in the capital budget, and I did not pull them out and put them in the capital budget. So just want to be clear that the operating budget as presented includes those two big capital budget matching requirements, and there is still a balance of $265,000 floating in ether for council to park somewhere. Whatever it is, but it isn't impacting the operating dollar budget. And in 2 years' time, we won't have that same matching requirement for Whiteshed and 2nd Street. We're going to have a totally different number.
Okay. All right. And then as far as, and I'm sorry to take everybody's time up, but I was trying to ask these questions earlier, so bear with me. And then as far as the fee schedule, I did look at the ones for the conferences and stuff, and and I looked at some stuff like $30 for coffee. I'm like, that would buy you 11 cups of coffee across the street. But I don't know. I'm just assuming, again, it gets back to, we need to hopefully look at this and try to break even on it. I have no idea how you set those fees, but I hope we've put a lot of thought into those and come up with the stuff. So I would just, again, stress that I think we need to take a look at going back to the capital projects budget, that we try to repair that substation, put money in that account in that substation for this year if it can be fixed, because it's going to start to be a safety issue, I think, if we got some heavy snow loads on that. So, all right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Banner. Councilman Jones.
Yeah. Gentlemen,
Boy, I'm not hearing any of that.
yeah, I agree with you, Tom, on the substation.
City Manager.
I was just going to add, because Tom, I think you probably didn't maybe hear some of the things I said earlier. There are several big projects that we're waiting for information on. That we're going to have to, as a body, to address in the first quarter of 2023, and that includes a substation. This is just a rough estimate. We don't have a real number. And then the other one is the swimming pool liner, which is getting close to failing. It will shut down the swimming pool. So those are two things that we'll have better numbers on very early January 23. And those would be things that we would definitely want to consider, and we'll have more accurate information about what would be required to do that work.
Do we want to continue on the fees that we were looking at? I think we're on Harvard.
So the Harbor did do a rate study. They're looking at modest increases for next year, understanding that there will be some disruption in the fall of 2023 for the Harbor rebuild project. But that when everyone comes back in 2024, there'll be this shiny new harbor with a lot of great amenities. So there'll be increases that will be reflective of that, but next year they're just doing modest increases to keep up with the needs to keep the harbor operating, but they're not planning large increases of any kind next year.
And then Cordova Center.
And the Cordova Center again reflects 20% cost increases, fee increases for the various services.
And it looks like, sorry.
And that's about a $7,000 anticipated bump to the revenue line.
How much is that?
7,000.
And so moving forward, it'll be one rate, whether you're local or not local.
I think there's Kathy,
One
can you,
rate.
yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Any more comments on the fee schedule? Okay, other capital budget or.
I guess I have a question on that. We've like looked at these charges.
We have, we compared with Sitka, these, say Juneau and Anchorage as well. So within our population, we fall a little bit above, kind of where we are. We were low when we started, but we haven't addressed that now, so, yeah. Especially in the theater too, and that's really a hard one to, when you're dealing with nonprofits like Cordova Arts and Pageants and the dance folks and we're trying to raise money. We try to keep that to a point where people can still afford to do it. It's a fine line.
Okay, so I don't hear a lot of concern about the fee schedule as presented, so we'll incorporate the revenue projections coming from these increased rates into the operating budget. And the next version of the operating budget will demonstrate those fees, how they impact the budget.
Just have a procedural question, I guess. The capital project list, which, we really haven't had one for a while, but does it need to be approved at the same time as the budget, or could we put it off until we have the engineer's report in January and address that and our CIP list at the same time?
Sure. It's totally doable. They're not required to be passed at the same time.
Councilman Jones?
Yeah, I've got a question still. didn't see like the refuse fees in this. It's the general fund.
The other enterprise fund, fee schedules will be forthcoming. I didn't get them in time to put them in this packet, but I did put the harbors in just to get them off the table and explain where we're at. So I'll have those and try to get them out to you guys by Friday. And the same with the enterprise fund budgets. We'll get those in front of you this week.
One thing that I'd like to program or an option for people to
Can I just clarify that a little bit? It's only refuse that can shut down. Water, sewer, they are charged through that, so it's only refuse, just, it's not all.
I'd like to agree with, I think Councilman Bailey and Councilman of waiting. I really do appreciate having list. It's nice to see it, and I really like the prioritizing of this year and the future years, what we're gonna need to do. But I do think it makes sense that if we're getting this big assessment done, that might modify our priorities. So I'm in favor also of waiting until we have that system. Do any more. Councilman Jones.
It's one of the general sections. It's kind of part of the budget, but we're not really talking about this. Land, there's tax. Yeah, if you have an empty lot, your tax.
We have one mill rate in the whole city. We're not allowed. We were when we had it. But different zoned areas within the city aren't allowed to be taxed differently. Or different uses, industrial,
Well, then we get rid of that.
vacant land. Yeah. Always the same mill rate and always the same assessing function of them, at market value. And I had given a packet of material, I think, in the first work session maybe about a little bit of property tax, like what a mill gets us and whatever, but unknown because value until after the appeal period, after BOE. And so at budget time, what you're setting is revenue goal, have it in as the same as this year's, 2.8.
Yeah, and I do want to acknowledge that we haven't had a real conversation, but I'm really attempting to pass the budget with modest increases and no increases on the mill rate. I mean, on the property tax line. It may be that we have to have that conversation or whatever the budget is presented to stabilize the tax burden on local property owners.
Councilman Sherman.
All right, I was just gonna add, I had this discussion with a business owner today and, it was well received that we were probably not going to be, we're trying not to increase the mill rate, the cost of living right now and, shortage of housing is, are bigger factors that people want to see addressed in terms of losing population and keeping clients and customers. So yeah, it was a good conversation to have with someone in the business field.
Yes, Susan.
So, I just want to clarify again for you guys that, we were extremely low. We were at 76% on our sales ratio when we did the state report summer, which means that what we have our assessed values at and what they actually sell for is like 76%. Ideally, the statute says anywhere from 90 to 110% is should be. So the assessors have input all this great stuff into ours. They should do a lot of analysis that they can do right on their computer, as well as coming around and take pictures and look at some things. So values might go up in all over town. But I said the, revenue goal at 2.8, that would be what we've done the last couple of times that company. The revenue goal stayed the same, so the mill rate actually came down a little bit just to hit what you had put in the budget. Council can do whatever you want on mill rates, but if you 2.8 revenue goals, everybody's values go up, even after the appeal period say, it doesn't mean their taxes are going up because possibly mill rate goes. Hard. Yeah.
Any other comments online?
Yes, this is Tom Baylor.
Okay, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, and then circling back around to Parks and Rec for all their ask, not only for their structures, but for the added employees and vehicles. I've said this before, I don't have a problem supporting Parks and Rec, but I want to hear from the public, which we haven't. And we do have a Parks and Rec board, their advisory board. I would like to know where they stand on this. To a person, do they support all these added costs and infrastructure, knowing that it could possibly cost, more mill rates cost? Do they support all this stuff? Because, that's their job to represent the public and bring that information to the Parks and Rec and then on to us. So I'd like to, before we take this up again, I'd like to hear from Parks and Rec committee and see what they have. I mean, we hear from the Harbor Committee when we do things in the harbor. We hear from Planning and Zoning when we do things. So it'd be nice to hear from them, and that would help me make up my mind and my decision. So thank you.
Councilman Jones?
Yeah.
We're scheduled to pass on December 6th, so we're running, that's basically 2.5 weeks. So I don't know if we have meetings planned for any of those bodies prior to the budget. I will say that the driver for Parks and Rec at this point has always been a comp plan in terms of the community's engagement. Granted, it's an old document, but it was a huge priority or a huge asset that the community acknowledged was in Parks and Rec and the importance of them in the community. So I definitely think we should engage more with the Parks and Rec Commission, and I don't think it's reasonable or feasible really before this document needs to be in front of you for approval. So I'm not sure what would be a second option in terms of that.
Were there other minutes of their discussion of the fee schedule on? The minutes from their meeting?
I'll turn those down.
Just in terms of Parks and Rec, I presented a version of that fee schedule to them in the October meeting and got feedback around things they liked and things they didn't like. So I've incorporated that and sent to them tonight. I've got another meeting with them next week, so I'll make a vision of my fees and charges.
The Harbor Commission, I'm not sure when they meet again.
They met last week.
Yeah, they had a meeting, but they did have a discussion.
There should be some minutes online. I mean, I could get with each of the, staff members. And or the chair of maybe any of those commissions, maybe even just to write a short email report or confirm the discussion at the meeting and what kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're talking about harbor, parks and rec, is that about it?
Yeah,
Yeah, they didn't do very many changes, I don't know.
For $25, it's about a $2,000 budget impact.
I'll ask all three, staff members and see what I can get.
well, P and Z supposed to.
They're the, no, they just have. Tony's a coach.
I guess I was.
Okay, is there any more discussion about capital projects, account balances, fee schedule?
I've got a question. The just reading.
Chief, do you want to come up?
Yes, I can. Blake agrees with supervisor.
Could we get the questions repeated? Because we can't hear Ken at all.
Ask for more information on the dispatch.
Yeah, I was talking with Blake Reese. He's our dispatch supervisor, very knowledgeable in that area with the computers, microphones and all that. He says the one that we have is going to be outdated, we believe, next year. I believe for years in next year. Probably not helping you with your answer on that, but I just know that it's going to be out.
Yeah, it's just.
It's not. Yeah.
I was just gonna add on a few comments about Cordova Center. We have tried to track personnel costs since it's opened in 2015, and we do have our hours divided up on our timesheets so that we could show how much time we were putting in for Cordova Center versus museum. Those did not get separated out when it came down to personnel to the finance department. So we lost all that information from 2015 forward. So it's basically, until I retired, it was just Mimi and I kind of keeping track of all our hours and expenses for conferences, the coffee, et cetera, et cetera. So we've been trying to recreate that, and both Mimi and I are still pretty committed to trying to help this separation move forward. And even though she's retiring in the spring and I'm already retired, we both are continuing to kind of refine and work on that, because I understand Councilman Baylor's questions. It's just been difficult because this is something none of us really did or knew, and we've been learning it all kind of
as we go. So I understand those questions. I do think it will be really difficult to break down utility costs. It's like trying to figure out how much your bathroom costs you in electric or lighting. But, definitely in terms of personnel costs, I think that's doable. And maybe we can just work with the finance department in the future to, break that out. But we have been trying really hard to, at least keep track of personnel costs and, replacements of tablecloths and things like that. So those we have numbers for.
City manager.
I have quite a bit of previous experience with facilities. And I can assure you that in Anchorage and in Sitka, where I rented facilities for events that I was dealing with, the Alaska Center for the Performing Arts and the Centennial Hall in Sitka, both of those were not making money, still don't make money. And the expectation isn't so much to cover costs as to maximize use. And so I think that metrics needs to be part of the conversation as well. And I just wanted to throw that out.
So I actually learned something new about city center. And things maybe get a little more. It's been 6 years. People call it city center.
It's usually 1 to 2 a year that she sends to me. So this year we've already had 2, and we're looking at 2 for next year as well. And they call the chamber, and then the chamber, she puts us in touch together. So, and I think to have the person who will take my job over, work closer on marketing and stuff like that with chamber, I think that would, I just don't have time. And I can't expect anybody just to do that without, backup or partnership, which I just haven't been able.
So I guess you can go on a follow-up.
So one of the things that I talked a little bit about here, this forum, we talked with other people, I think the idea of what's not happening is we're not sending out facility packets to the top 10 groups that might have meetings, and we're not doing it a year in advance. That's what needs to happen to really market this facility. It's not a matter of waiting until somebody calls us. It's a matter of sending out information and saying, targeting, like, okay, we want 4 groups of 50 who is having their annual meeting coming up. Let's send them a packet. Let's follow up with a phone call. Let's invite them to come see the facility or whatever it takes. But that would be the marketing that needs. Well, chamber should be doing some of that. I think that's what I'm hoping we can. Chamber to be doing, making the follow-up phone calls and. I think what you said the other night was the city manages the facility, the chamber, the MOU says the chamber will do the marketing.
And we tried to, do both when we first started, and then it just snowballed on us, but we still have the informational packets. They can be updated. The facility guide could just be updated and ready to go. So it's all still upstairs in the cupboards. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Tom.
Councilman Jones and then Councilman Baylor.
When this first started, we were citizens.
Yeah, that's what.
Yes, Mimi and I looked at Cordova Center and kind of tossed the museum back and forth. But most of our, 3/4 of our job time was Cordova Center.
So, I guess.
I think we're trying to separate.
Councilman Baylor?
Yeah, well, there's some good conversation there on the Cordova Center. And again, my comments are all about moving forward, not what's done in the past. And it shouldn't be that hard to track what we're, especially now that we're going to have a full-time person on this, or half-time, whatever you want to call it. How many people are we bringing in for these conferences? Where are they staying? It's a simple matter of having a little questionnaire out for these people, asking where are they staying? They staying through like Fisherman, they staying at bed and breakfast. Start getting an idea of how many people we're bringing in and where the money is being spent. If we're subsidizing this with taxpayer money to the tune of $100,000 and we're not bringing anything in, then that's just silly. A handful of vendors, are going to profit from it. But we don't know that because we're not tracking what are our expectations for chamber. How do we hold them accountable? I heard Kristen's conversation there. We should be doing this a year and ahead. Yeah, what are our guidelines? And maybe that's where it needs to come together. What are our expectations? What do you expect out of the chamber? What do we expect out of this person? How many people are coming to town? Where are they spending their money? Let's get a handle on this. Let's find out what are our costs. If we're going to give coffee away and we're going to charge $30 for coffee, is that like that? Like the stores do to get you in? Is that something we're good with giving away? Again, you run the numbers. If we want to recoup maybe $66,000 worth of employees' wages, now that's just their wages. That's not your other cost. That would take, you'd have to have about 1,500 nights stay at motels or bed and breakfast. You'd have to have those people spend $500,000 to get 6% sales tax out of it. So what are the realistic numbers? We've got a letter, in our council packet for the meeting tomorrow, and the person stating I'm for the spending this and I'm for this, but I don't want to raise the property taxes. So we've got this false narrative out there that we're making. It's just this wonderful thing for the economy of Cordova having these conferences. Maybe it is, but we don't know. Nobody can quantify that. So that's where I'm talking about moving forward. We need to nail this down and, hold everybody accountable and get it figured out. And it might be the best thing ever. Or we may find that we need to tweak a few things. So thank you.
I do want to comment. First of all, we know how many people come through here because I keep track of how many people are in attendance at each meeting, including these meetings, and we keep them separate. Paying and city. Also, a lot of this information is available through the chamber because they keep track of how many people are in town and how much they spend through their chamber stamping when people come to Shorebird, when they come to Fungus Festival, things like that. I don't know that it's specifically Cordova Center job to find out where everybody's staying, but there's reluctant. There's only a few places they can stay. Those people give the city their sales taxes, so you can tell right there how much money they've made for things that go on in the city. So I don't know. I do believe that we do need to have an accountability part, but I think we need to be realistic about how we come about these numbers, because gathering all that information and then disseminating it is a full-time job. So it's what do you want what is important for the person to be doing, who's going to be having the responsibility of booking, running, and giving away coffee.
Well, I think you shouldn't be any problem to give us a number of how many people come to conferences. It's not that big of an issue.
I think there is a number, it is known how many people use or come in and use the facilities.
We can get that in the report to you.
That would be great. More information we have, the better.
I do also want to, I didn't go back after we made our copies of the account balances, just to give you a sense of where we stand. I don't know if we're ready for that conversation, but I did want to just make sure we didn't overlook it.
Do you want to just give a brief overview since
Okay.
I haven't really had a chance to look at it?
Sure. So, unfortunately, these pages aren't numbered, but there's one account optimization. It's at the top. Across the top of the yellow bar, this is cash desk analysis. So we have 7 bank accounts at FNBA, representing 42% of all of our cash assets. 4 of the 7 earn interest and the others don't. 2 of them are CDs. They're required as to anchor bonds that we have. And then UBS has the remainder, almost 60% of the balances, and all of it pretty much is invested. If you flip the page over, you'll see it says bank by bank. It shows the First National accounts, the UBS accounts, the beginning balance, ending balance is where we are at this moment in time, which is the end of October. The interest rates, you'll see where those are. And because we have so much in FNBA, we just moved some money to the AMLIP, Alaska Municipal League Investment Pool, which is bringing in around 3.75% interest right now. And those funds are readily accessible. We don't have to cash in securities or anything in order to access them. So we're making some changes to maximize the interest that we can earn on the monies. The next page is just a continuation, just ending balances. It's a continuation of that. You flip it over, you'll see the graph which shows where we stand in the various accounts. We have a lot of different accounts. We're going to do our best to start minimizing the costs of those accounts, maximizing earnings on those accounts, and consolidating where necessary. So that's something to keep in mind. But I think probably the most important thing is that the amount of resources that we have available is going up over time, and that's a good thing. And if there's any questions, just give me a shout.
Any comments on the account balances? Online, any comments? Okay. Thank you for that. Last call for work session comments. Otherwise, I'll call for the last motion.
I just want to make sure that I'm clear. As I heard, we're going to postpone capital until we have more information. So that'll be first quarter of the 2023 calendar year, budget year. As it stands now, you're reasonably comfortable with the fee schedules that have been presented. There'll be additional ones coming. I'll incorporate and make changes to the revenue lines with the expected results of those fee changes on the bottom line. And we'll get you some more information about the number of users, both paid and non-paid, for this facility, and the impacts of that. And that will be a number that we'll have for your conversation. Parks and Rec and Harbor and planning and zoning will, some way we will get you information ASAP around their support for the various investments that are being asked as city. And that's my wish, your wish was of me. If there's anything else, let me know now. But otherwise we'll get some work going and making sure those things are reported back.
And so we have a meeting, a regular meeting tomorrow. Do we have another work session planned between meetings?
Do not have one scheduled for tomorrow yet. And do we want to have the next one? I did ask Amy, and she's here also, about dates that were available.
We have scheduled passing the budget on the 6th of December.
December 7th.
The first meeting. So we are hustling on our end to make sure you have the information you need to feel comfortable passing that budget. Next week is Thanksgiving. And we do need, just for calendar's sake, a week prior to that 7th meeting, we have to have like consumption, right?
And we meet, yes, that is correct, which means the 30th. Sam has discussed a special meeting on the 29th, which will be the 4:30. I thought we said the 29th, which is Tuesday. All right, the 30th. Plus with work session, but hopefully budget is done by then. Can we have a budget work session a week from tonight? On the 22nd, is that too close to Thanksgiving? Is everybody traveling? We do it at lunchtime. Do lunch on the 22nd. Did you think you were gonna have enough of all those things done by Friday or the weekend or something?
Online, Jeff and will you be available next Tuesday
At noon,
at noon to call in?
Tuesday the 22nd. And I guess we could do Wednesday, but that's the day before. We're all making pies.
I think Tuesday, the 22nd, I've got an eye appointment in the middle of the day. I gotta check on times for that.
We could potentially do Monday.
Are we really gonna get it out over the weekend?
They work weekends.
Yes, I know you do.
I don't think any of this is something today's Tuesday, so I think.
Or later in the day on Tuesday? Did you say noon would work, Kristen? But
Yeah,
what-
to be clear, just
board meeting will be
6. I think I could commit to getting everything out by Friday morning for a work session if you guys wanted to do a Monday.
I'm a believer, number one.
Since when?
Can we find out when Jeff's appointment is and maybe do it at like 2 on Tuesday? Okay.
Yeah, Tuesday, anytime of the day.
Jeff, does that work for you?
Just text me.
That's what I love.
Okay, so next work session will be at some point on Tuesday.
Tuesday, and we'll let you know. Is that okay?
No, it's fine.
Squash your hopes on
Oh, I'm just trying to anticipate people's lives.
Oh. We're fine.
Do we have a? Okay.
He's bringing.
Do we have a final motion that anyone can make?
Adjourn. Second.
Moved and seconded.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
No objection, we're adjourned.
Oops.
You meant to say.
Yes.
It's a work session. Okay, now we're gonna put that on email you one. Done. Hey, everybody, take a look at approval.
Okay, I think I was told to push end. I think that's all I was told to do.